So another pointer to help with abiding as awareness, another practice, is simply being okay with not knowing. Just really staying in that unknown. See, when we're trying to predict what's going to happen next, when we're trying to plan everything, there's the belief in the doer that's doing all the planning and that's calculating the moves and making the decisions and predicting what's going to happen. So there's that belief in the doership, right? That ego, the me, the mind, the I, the little I. And there's that. And then there's the belief that you're in control and you're controlling everything. And what's very liberating is actually just remaining in the unknown, the I don't know. See, when we're just staying with the I don't know, and I don't know what's going to really happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen in the next minute. I don't know what I'm about to say. It's being okay, getting comfortable in the unknown. That then you're abiding as that awareness. Because the knower, trying to know something, trying to control, that's an activity that's seen by awareness. That activity of trying to plan, that activity of predicting, that activity of trying to control the next event, that activity that's striving in the future for something, that's seen by you, awareness. And what's very liberating is just abiding as that awareness, not knowing, just remaining as the witnessing, as if you're witnessing a movie that you've never watched before. You ruin the movie if you think that you're controlling the next scene. You're going to ruin the movie if you're chatting about all the characters in the movie and what you think about them. You're ruining the movie when you think you're somehow directing the movie that's already complete. So if you just kind of sit back in this not knowing, it's kind of like you sit back on the couch, pop some popcorn, you start eating some popcorn, and you are just watching the movie of your life unfold. And the not knowing is actually maybe not at the start because you're starting to feel the fear, but that's quickly transcended. But the not knowing is actually, it's happiness, it's peace, it's enjoyment. Just like with this analogy, you enjoy a movie when you just simply watch. You don't enjoy the movie when you try and direct the next scene. You don't enjoy the movie when your friend is narrating the movie. You don't enjoy the movie when you're thinking about all the characters and their stories and your stories, and you don't enjoy the movie that way. Movies are enjoyed best when you simply just watch. And practicing that awareness, practicing abiding as the awareness, it's this state of not knowing what's happening next, which is actually the opposite of what you might be thinking. Wow, that sounds really scary, and that sounds boring. Boring, as if I'm just going to sit back and watch my life. That sounds really boring, Mitch. It's quite the opposite. It's the opposite. It's actually, you're now experiencing a wonderful life, a life full of wonder. Wonder. I didn't know this was going to happen. See, I didn't know this was going to happen. Not knowing. It's this wonder, this awe. Everything is a surprise. Just like when you go to a movie, you don't really know what's going to happen in the next scene. That's why you don't want to see, a 10-minute trailer of the movie, because it almost feels like after watching 10 minutes, of the movie in a trailer, you've seen too much. That's why it's best to not watch a trailer. And then you go and you get surprised. Wow, that was better than I expected. Because when we create expectations, we're always going to be disappointed. Because nothing really happens how we expect it. So we just drop the whole expectations. We drop expecting things. And we live in this wonderment as life unfolds in front of us, where we simply get to watch. Where you're almost watching yourself as a character in the movie. And it's the trying to control things, thinking that, I'm going to be the character and control everything. Where you take it so seriously. And when you're serious, you're not having fun. And when you're trying to control everything, well, that's stressful. So you remove the stress, which is now relaxing. You remove the seriousness, which is now fun. And now, as awareness, it's like you're eating popcorn on the couch with your feet up, having fun, watching a movie, fully enjoying the movie, having a wonderful time. So the practice is seeing where you're still trying to plan everything, seeing where there's still that belief in the doership of everything, seeing that. And then, like I said, with all these practices, it's a non-practice. It's a non-action. I know it doesn't really make sense because you say, well, give me a practice. But all the practicing it's a non-doing, because the planning is a doing. Not planning. Well, how do you practice not planning? Don't plan. Right? How do you practice not controlling your life? Just stop controlling. How do you practice not taking life so serious? Stop taking it so seriously. How do you practice not knowing? Just stop trying to know. You're fooling yourself when you try and know something the next. Try it. You have no idea what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. Never mind the next 5 minutes, the next moment. It's this continuous now, which is a continual flow, which we call the present moment. And we don't really know what's next. And once that's seen very clearly, then it's almost seen as like, what a waste of energy. What a waste of, that's kind of ruining the movie. Just like as if you were to go to the movies and you're watching the movie, but you can't really enjoy the movie because you're constantly in your head going, I bet you the main character is probably going to, he's probably going to fall out of the airplane. Yeah, he's probably going to die in the first 10 minutes of this movie. I bet you that's what's going to happen. As you're doing that, you're not enjoying what's on the screen right now. You're not enjoying the present moment. So once you see that, then you see that that activity is taking you out of the present moment. And the present moment can be experienced when you're not trying to predict. When you're not thinking about what's happening next. Because that thinking activity is actually, it's not the present moment. It's the future. Or it's the past. Typically, we're trying to predict the future because the past has already happened. We think about the past and we're trying to preserve the past, but it's over. It's done. The past is dead and the future is unborn. So what's the point of trying to predict something that's unborn? You can try, but it's a lot better living in wonderment, not knowing. When we're not knowing, life is just unfolding. The experience is unfolding. And what makes that experience possible is awareness. Because if you weren't aware, how could there be an experience? So it's not that hard, just abiding as the awareness, but it does take that not knowing. Not knowing, when you get comfortable not knowing, like I said, that fear is quickly transcended. The fear of not knowing, the fear of letting go of control. You get better at just letting go of control. And when you let go of control, it's freedom. I can relax. It's not so serious. It's more fun this way. It's not so heavy. It's lighter. It's not so contracted. It's expansive. Right? And just that, you start experiencing more of yourself as awareness. You're able to rest in yourself as awareness. You're able to just kind of bathe in your own happiness as awareness. It's like you're disidentifying with everything. You're detaching from everything. You're detaching from the movie. And now you can fully enjoy it. Where you're not in denial of what's happening. But there's just no resistance. And when we're not resisting life, then there's no suffering. There's only suffering when we're trying to attach to things and we're trying to resist things. There's only suffering when we're rejecting things. But as long as we accept, whatever unfolds, unfolds. I'm accepting it. Whatever unfolds, I'm allowing it. Whatever unfolds, I'm open to it. Then we're just constantly just in this state of wonderment, which is very peaceful, happy. We're loving the experience. We're loving the movie. We're enjoying the movie. I love this movie. I'm watching it. It's a great movie. What's going to happen next? I don't know. And that's what makes it so wonderful. Because if you know everything that's going to happen, just like if you were to go to the movies, you wouldn't pay to go see the movie if you've already watched it 10 times. I've seen this too many times. It's boring now. But the present moment is always fresh. Life is always new. If it seems old, if it seems like it's a repeat, It's because that's the mind projecting onto the present moment. It's projecting its expectations onto the present moment. It's projecting its predictions onto the present moment. Its ideas about life, it's projecting that onto the present moment. And when you're in a state of not knowing, you're in your own innocence. You don't know, you're innocent. Everything's fresh. It's like you're experiencing life as like a newborn. That's how it feels. It's like whatever's happening with me, it's always fresh. I don't know. I don't go and slap labels. There's no labels on things. There's no prediction. There's no narration. There's no story. None of that. Everything it's raw. It's new. It's fresh. It's wonder, awe, exciting. Right? And you might be saying, well, that kind of sounds scary. Is it? Is it really scary? Was it really scary when you're a baby? Right? The experience of a baby. You look at, are they really scared? They look a lot happier than most adults, that's for sure. Doesn't look that stressful being a baby. They look pretty relaxed, pretty open, right? So it kind of takes you to that unconditioned state, that natural state. That's why you start feeling your natural state is not knowing. It's not knowing anything other than yourself. And that's what seems to be coming through more and more. As the more and more you're not knowing, the more just happiness you're starting to experience. But that happiness isn't coming from an external. It's not coming from a circumstance. That happiness that you're experiencing is the happiness that you are. And it seems like that happiness, the more you're abiding as that awareness, it just cranks up. Where that happiness seems to be pushed into the foreground. Where whatever you're experiencing, it's just you're okay with it. You've made it okay. You're allowing it. You're accepting it. You're open to it. Because that level of enjoyment is just too good. It's too good. That level of peace, that level of freedom, the freedom that you as awareness aren't touched by all those experiences. Just like when you sit on the couch and you watch a movie, you're not touched by what's going on in the movie. There's fires and bombs and flooding. You're not up on the couch going, I hope I don't catch fire, and lifting your feet off the ground thinking that there's a flood in your house. You're untouched by it. That's why you can enjoy it so much. Is because you're not attached to it. And that attachment, let's cut it off right there, is the belief in the doer that has the power, the capability to be planning and predicting and controlling the next event. And you can see this where you just try it. Plan what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes, moment to moment. It's not going to happen your way. But that belief is so strong. That belief is so strong. Just look back on your life. Did everything go as you expected it to? Did everything go as planned? What are most people saying? I never dreamed of this. This is beyond anything I imagined. Things aren't going the way I thought they would go. It's because you're wrong almost 100% of the time. So then what's the point? It's just wasted energy. That's just the identification. It's that activity of the mind. So just see it clearly and then just rest in the not knowing. Because that not knowing is very restful. You just sit back and you relax. It's not to say that you're not going to be involved in life. You're very much involved in life. Life still goes on. It's just this attachment that allows you to experience life, but be free of all the experiences of life. That in the world, but not of the world. It actually is the opposite of what you might be thinking, because that thought of, oh, this sounds like it's probably being boring, and that sounds like it wouldn't be that great, Mitch. It's actually the opposite, because it allows you to actually be even more involved in life. Because that level of fear is not so much. You're not trying to, there's not so much of that fear. When there's so much fear when there's that attachment. Just like there's a greater level of fear if you're walking through some dark forest late at night and you're hearing kind of sounds of animals and it sounds like there's footsteps around you. When you experience that, that's a lot more fearful than if you were to watch a movie about that happening to a character in the movie. So there's this kind of feeling like you're way more involved in life. You can experience the totality because that fear, that resistance, that excluding, that closure, that rejection. But you're not rejecting, you're not closing, you're not resisting. So then it's a much more inclusive experience of life, a much more total experience of life. You're experiencing the totality of life, the fullness of life. So that practice of not knowing, catching yourself when you're trying to make those plans and predictions, and let me just be okay with not knowing. It's not so serious. Let me just ease up. Let me lighten up, right? It's good, actually, good verbiage, good way we put it. Lighten up. Because when we take life so seriously, it feels heavy. So when someone says, lighten up, what are they saying? Don't take life so serious. Don't be so serious. Lighten up. Well, if life feels really heavy, the more identified we are, the more attached we are as the doer, the more identified as the doer. So hopefully that helps. Give it a shot. It's just another pointer, another practice. Whatever we practice, we get good at. So the only way to get good at not knowing, another way to say it, the only way to get comfortable not knowing is to practice just not knowing. And even that becomes automatic. That becomes very natural. That not knowing is that natural state, which is not really a state. It's your nature. Where then that can continue to mature, continue to deepen, where you're just constantly not knowing, but you're fully aware, not knowing in the sense of not knowing the future, not knowing the past. But what happens is you're actually super present, fully present to the present moment, fully aware of the present moment. And it's just a constant flow. Because once you remove the resistance, it's like removing the resistance like a beaver dam. Once you remove the beaver dam that you've created, once you remove that resistance, there's just the flow of life. And then life is, it's like constant meditation. It's you are meditative. It's constant flow, 24/7. Being aware of being aware. This is the highest form of meditation, sahaja, samadhi, where it's just constant flow. But in order to experience that constant flow, we have to see the resistance that we're creating. We have to see where we're not allowing the flow to happen. We have to see where we're closing it off, closing the river of life off with our beaver dam. Right? And then we just simply become open, allow, accept, and whatever flows, we just let it flow. We don't know what's coming down the river. It's just unfolding. Whatever comes down the river, I'm okay with that. I'm good. Just make it okay. It's that not knowing what's coming down the river, that anything that's coming down the river is a complete surprise. And that river of life, it's wonderful. And the experience is wonderment, awe, enjoyment,